Hello, everybody. Welcome to PowerShell Wednesday, your weekly PowerShell meetup. We're having fun. We're streaming here. You can catch us live at 2 p.m. Eastern, or you can catch us afterwards, whatever floats your boat. We're trying to cover a lot of different topics. And a topic that often comes off when you're learning PowerShell is you'll learn commands, you'll learn the where object, the select object, like we have done, other commands like getAdUser that return what you want. But then there's sometimes when you actually need to deal with pre-existing text files, or you need to change the way that some text looks. And when you start doing that, you kind of leave the traditional paradigm of the way you've seen PowerShell being done. You may rely on methods or different operators that you may not have seen before. So today I have returning guest, good friend, all the good stuff, not Gary, also known as Greg Martin, legally.
Legally, yeah.
But I think today we're going to cover the basics.
Not Gary hides me from the tax collector.
whatever counts, you know. We'll keep it off. We'll keep how much you're getting paid off the record.
Yeah.
But I think this is a really great topic. And the reason I think that you're someone who's really great to accompany me is because my background is not like the way I learned text manipulation was from PowerShell, was going through it there. And you have a bit of a different background where you're a legit programmer and Linux. So the Linux thing probably has a lot of experience with text manipulation and dealing with that. And hopefully borrow your perspective, borrow my perspective, and leave people knowing that there are a lot of tools out there. And to actually use them, it's not that hard. It's a couple building pieces, and then you can all of a sudden do quite big things. Let's add a screen.
Totally.
We were talking before we went live. We were like, oh wow, this is really tiny text. Editor font size. I just do this now because it doesn't increase the other button sizes.
Does it Control Plus not work?
Or well, it increases the sidebar things too.
Oh, the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah. So if I want to make it real big, I just found out about this somewhat recently. That looks good enough. Okay. We were talking, man. We were like, how do we make this engaging? There's a lot of methods that do exist. And I know if I were to cover each and every one, people aren't going to remember them all. The big takeaway that I want people to have from this is you have everything that you could possibly need to do anything you want with text, pretty much, that a programmer would want to do. It's available to you. You don't have to have that always top of mind. I think, Gary, yeah, I'll call you Gary, whatever. Gary, I think you were talking about how there's only like 3 or 4 that you use consistently.
Yeah.
What are those?
Yeah. So, I mean, the string class, it gives you a lot of manipulation methods at your disposal, which, as you're showing there in PowerShell, if you pipe a string into get member, it'll spit all that out. Get member can give you a lot of things. You can actually filter in and just methods. So but like anything that says method there is what you're going to be focusing on. But from what's shown above there, I mean, most people that need string manipulation will just do like changing case, so to upper or to lower. Getting the length obviously is really important, especially if you need to measure the length of the string and pair it in relation to strings that are around it, or so on and so forth, or for measuring other things. Splitting is also really useful for creating an array of different parts of the string. So like if you have a string with 5 white spaces in it and between words, and then you split on a space, you'll get 5 separate strings, right?
Yeah, I think this is a really good example of that people see, right?
Mm-hmm.
PS module path, it's a bunch of things, and what are they separated by? A colon.
Yep.
That's a very common example you might run into when you're not actually changing anything. You're just splitting on a certain value. And once you get that in your head, it's super easy. Yeah, split is one that I use a lot.
Yeah, and another takeaway for that, for a little more, if you're thinking a little bit deeper into it, when you do a split, it gives you back a string array. So it's an array of individual strings itself. So at the split, it would be, a new element in the array for the delimiter. So it's easier to work with if you need to conceptualize it that way. Some of the other methods that are common that I see a lot are contains. So you have to check to see if a string has a specific string within it. That's useful for all kinds of things. If you have a string that just has garbage in it, you need to know if there's a specific name or a specific address or something. That contains method is used there. Trim is another important one too. That'll hack off white space at the front and the end of the string, and it's good for like sanitization. you can also, I think in the example there, 14, you can trim on specific characters at the end. So like if you have a set of data and you know that for each piece of data in that set, it's got some asterisks at the end of that line, you can just hack that off with the trim and it'll take it out.
Yeah, let's try that. Something like this, trim, and then we'll want, how many ones is that? I think it's 5. Maybe it's different on each side and I ruined it. Boom.
Yeah, there you go.
That's super common because you'll see like certain systems will add certain things that you don't actually need, or they'll you'll misspell something and you can go through a bunch of text files and just replace things or whatever you need to do.
Yeah, the other nice thing about trim, and I think I've seen some programmers get caught up by this, and it not so much anymore, but I do remember seeing it in the past. Was like there used to be at one point, and I don't think this was in C# but like other languages like C++, where there was like a explicit trim left and an explicit trim right. Like, so it would only focus on one end of the string and not the other, and then trim just consolidates that and says, hey, now I'm going to do both sides of it, right? So you don't have to worry about, if I'm using trim, it's only going to hit one end or the other. And then, of course, with, what was I going to say there? Oh yeah. So like like I said earlier, with pad left and pad right, I see those used more in financial applications, where you need to express numbers in like fixed precision. So like if you need 2 or 3 zeros in front of a specific number or whatever, that's what the pad left and pad right is going to do. It's not very common, but it does have some uses. And then obviously the comparison operators, like, not like, equals, match.
Yeah, and those exist outside of just this too.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
I've seen the pad left thing. When people create their first like application and they have it, so like it write hosts right in the beginning, and there's like a ton of pound signs, pound, the name of the script, pound.
Yep.
Boom, pad left or pad right. I don't really recommend that approach, but
yeah,
I think that's another place where you might see it.
Yeah. So the point is like once you get a lot of this basic string, and I know it probably sounds like I'm oversimplifying it, but really this is basic string manipulation. And once you get a lot of this down packed and play with it and figure it out, then using commandlets like get content and set content for file manipulation can become a little easier. Now, file manipulation with PowerShell is not as flexible as, say, something like Linux, where you have tools like set and awk, where you can actually inline manipulate text. But it is possible to do those kinds of things in a PowerShell-like way.
Yeah. There's a bunch you can do. And I think Sean brought up a great point. That was the trim. It's a regex match. So make sure you're deliberate and the code isn't going to get a little wonky from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Regular expressions are a big thing. They can, I know we joke about them in the Discord quite a bit as being like the litmus test as to whether you'll survive another day or not. But they're really not that difficult. And there's quite a bit of tools that you can use to help build a regular expression. Like even on the internet, there's a site called Regex101.com, and you can put your text in there and use it to help you build a regular expression to do what you need to do.
Yep. Word of warning for everyone out there. Do not just trust AI with regex. Do not. And another, just anything with text, AI or not, it's you having fun learning new things. Create a copy of a .bak of whatever file you're going to mess with, at least in the beginning, and probably longer term. It's always nice to have a backup you can just quickly go to if your scripts go awry. But that regex thing, dude, it caught me. I was on a personal project, just having fun, messing with some AI stuff. Didn't really care, right? It's not work stuff. It goes wrong, whatever. And I wanted to remove some characters from a ton of file names. And I think they were like, they were Chinese characters. And I just asked AI. I mean, I didn't even check it. Hey, I need to remove all of it. Well, it removed like only every single character at the beginning. And so all of my files were like, it would say, not Greg's PowerShell presentation. It was like, eggs, our shell as an Asian. To like 700 files. And then I tried to undo it and I didn't have a log where I transcribed what I did and output an object. So yeah.
Yeah.
Got to create backup.
Yeah. Yeah, you do, and making backups is crucial. And like I said, if you do use the tools like Regex 101, for example, to help with that stuff, which is we could have a whole conversation,
And we will.
separate conversation on regular expressions.
I
So
think in 1 or 2 weeks we're gonna have Steve and Judd come by and give us a little primer on Regex
nice.
regular expressions. So a nice little follow up. Regex can just blow the top off what you can do.
Yeah, he'd be a good guy to simplify that and really bring Regex down to mere mortal land. But yeah, tools like the Regex 101, I use that all the time for helping to build regular expressions out. And it's a little more authoritative. It's not an actual AI backed tool for that kind of stuff. It's, the scaffolding around different kinds of regular expressions is built in, and then it'll help you build out the actual expression to use.
Yeah, I like tools like that. And plus with Regex stuff, if you're going to ever run it or share it with anyone, you got to be a little careful for sure. Because isn't it like technically a programming language, or I mean, kind of, it does a ton of stuff, right? Like you can crash a system with big enough Regex. Yeah,
it is. It's actually like it's a small interpreted language that's technically like a stream editing language. The syntax is really hokey though. So like doing like quantifier selectors for like one or more characters, and then matching different character sets, and then you can actually change like the order of the matching, so you can match backwards instead of forwards in the string, and then grab different quantities of matches, and it can get really complicated really fast. But it is its own small dialect.
Yep.
But that's as simple as it gets. Yeah, I mean, split white space. There you go.
Yep.
You did a Regex.
I like the indexing as well, because it's kind of like substring in some ways, right? But this is a concept you're going to see all over PowerShell, which is referring to the index. So like index, a list of things, you start at 0. So if the string you have is hello, index 0 is H, and you can do all the way to the end. We'll go through some of that. Yep. We got a little string.
Yeah. So the thing to point out with that, you're right on the spot. I mean, it is a way to express substrings, right? Because at the end of the day, a string is a glorified character array, right? It's just it's an array of like the individual characters that make the string. So when you do things with the array accessor format there, used to be called the subscript accessor, but this is effectively a substring, right?
Yep.
So what you're seeing there is like what's the S0? It's the very first character in the string.
Dude,
negative number. Well, so negative numbers will wrap around, right? So if you specify a start index at 0 and then your ending index for the substring is a negative number, it actually kicks the cursor to the very end of the string and then rolls backwards.
Would this work? No. Yep. So how would I get the whole string though? Because I thought it was an array of characters.
You can just type the whole thing. And there's a whole thing, right? So you can just do S, and that'll give you the whole thing, right? Now, if you wanted to be fancy, you could pre-compute the length of the string, and then use that in the subscript, right? So if you do S, like len equals S dot length, and then you can do S in brackets len. Well, 0 to len, right?
Yeah.
1 minus 1, sorry.
Right, because we're indexing at 0.
Yeah. Oh.
Do this. Oh.
Yeah, try to see if putting that in a sub expression works. I don't know if you can do that with the range operator. Oh, there you go.
And then, okay, that's a ton of stuff though. What if we wanted to join it back together? Would it be dash n, like the new line thing? For some
I think so. Ooh. Well, just do that. Well, actually, just do an empty string with no white space. There you go.
Why did that work with empty space with no white space? Because I don't think I've ever done that before. So that was actually something.
My guess would be that. So the range operator will technically break that apart as a byte array, and then when it tries to piece it back together, it needs to be able to append that white space back, because the byte array is only concerned with a single character and not like the character and the white space. That's actually still a compound string. That would be my thought on that.
Sweet. Yeah, interesting. That is something I just learned. I think that just speaks to with PowerShell, with anything you learn in these PowerShell Wednesdays or that you're dabbling with. I saw somebody in the PDQ Discord earlier today with some AD thing. Just play around with it. As long as you're not setting anything, the best way to learn is to FAFO, figure it out, have some fun, get that as tactile as you can get with a programming language. You have to get that. You can't just theoretically watch us. You have to find your chance to actually do things. And playing around with strings, you're not even, it's such a great way to start. And you can do very powerful things with it and build confidence.
PowerShell is really safe. String manipulation is super fun. And PowerShell makes string manipulation. I'm saying this coming from, like a C++ background. PowerShell makes string manipulation like hella easy. So, things that you do in here that with just a simple method call would be probably, 15, 20, 30 lines of C code. It's a nightmare. So, take advantage of it, man. Seriously, it's a hell of a lot easier to do it here than it is in anywhere else.
The lazy person in me wants to tell everybody about match is regex. It's better, but there's a lot of use cases where what you're dealing with is not that complex. There's not going to be this thing repeated. This might work. If you're going to create a proper script, you want to probably sanitize things more, but for daily use, you have a little thing you're trying to change. I'm sorry, it's lazy, but I'm using it.
It gets a job done, man. Matching octets in an IP or matching, specific parts of a host name, or if you have some logic to your host names or whatever, like most enterprises do. I mean, you can use the operator to find, was it like this with this character here, this character here, this character here? Because some of the, and you can see that in the example on line 19, you can use, quasi regex patterns within the expression. So if you do, like I said, if you do have, host names that have different meanings for each character, but you only want to know what the third, fifth, and ninth one are, then you can, match on those as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, is a super quick, easy, and accessible way to get that done without having to, stumble over the full tenacity of a regex being thrown in your face.
And it is worth noting that these comparison operators, they exist outside of just strings. These are constructs you can see in where object, you can see all over PowerShell. So it's really good to get familiar and take advantage of those.
Yeah.
Ooh, absolutely. Should we cover a here string? I'll post the link. Sorry, guys, who are watching this after the fact. What I like with strings in PowerShell is the fact that you can hear string with double quote and have a substring section where you want to insert something calculated or just to add the variable right in. Interesting.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of the sub expression operator that he was referencing there. In fact, when I do any kind of string interpolation in PowerShell, it's overkill, right? But I always use that sub expression operator to interpolate, because the thing is, if you want to interpolate a variable that has a method that you're trying to call inline into that string, you can't do it without the sub expression operator, and because it'll just puke, But
let's do that.
And it just looks clean. Yeah, we can do that.
So check this out, everybody. So I kind of created this quick little script so we could have a bad text file that we were going to maybe look at. So I wrote a function. Nothing matters except for this. This is the here string thing they're talking about. You have this at the beginning, and then you can have tons, a very, very long string until there's a line with just this on it. Right? That's the way you end it. As you can see, we have a ton of text. Now that's one thing. That's just the here string. The sub expression thing. So let's say we want to add a little bit of calculated code. Oh, look at that. I'm just going to click this. I'm just going to click tab. I'm sorry. If you got it, flaunt it, right? Okay.
Do it.
Sorry to flex with the GitHub Copilot. But that is a sub expression. Bing, bang, you can run PowerShell in a double quoted string. So that's kind of the benefit of double quotes. You can have your variables and sub expressions. Single quotes, you can't do that, which is good if you don't want it translated. But let's save this. Well, actually, let's just run it all. New bad text file. As you can see on the right, we don't have a bad text file. Let's fix that, not Gary. Holy smokes. Wait. Yeah, here it is. Okay, as you can see, today's date is whenever I ran this. And that's very simple, not the most helpful use case. Although I do think that a lot of times running the get date is very helpful as a sub expression. Like there's a lot of things you want to know if you're tracking something or whatever. You want to know when something happened. Very, very easy to add that along.
Mm-hmm.
Let me show one.
Yeah, logging purposes, or well, timestamping any activity, right? I mean, that's quintessential for that.
I like this too, file date time, because
I don't know about that.
It's just friendly for files.
Oh, so you get gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we could do this. If you needed to translate it back, you could do something like that, I believe. Just kidding. We'll worry about that some other time. I think I'd have to get like just a string.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, you would.
But yeah, so that is a good example of the here string thing. And that's more with like writing PowerShell than it is manipulating text. But it's one of those, it's more of a secret. Like you're not going to just run into here strings if you're running regular commands. Same thing with some of the other stuff that we're covering here.
Yep.
All right. What should we switch to now? You want to share some screen? You got some stuff you want to look at? Because so far we've just looked at strings. We created one file at the end there, but thus far we haven't dealt with a file, which is just multiple strings in a row, like an array of strings, I think you were saying. So it's really the same stuff, but there are maybe a couple considerations we need to take. Let me know when you're ready and I can switch over.
Yeah, so okay, so I can go. You can go ahead and switch over. I'm gonna copy and paste the text that you gave me to make that file.
Okay.
And we're just gonna make it. So if we do GCI, you can see, hey, that file, we made it.
Boom.
I think you just made that file in your last step, didn't you, in VS Code on your side?
Yeah, I just put the new bad text file on the next line after.
Okay. So if we do bad text file, I was already playing around with this, so you can see that there. But if we look at the content we can read the content of the file with the get content command, and that's just gonna spit verbatim, what's in the file, all tabs, all white spaces, all misspellings, whatever. It's all gonna be in there, right? And the neat thing about get content is that when you run it, it actually gives you an object array. Okay,
can you make it a little bit bigger?
Yeah, sure, we can make that bigger.
Boom.
There we go. How's that?
Prime.
All right. So what the heck? Why an object array, right? Because every single one of these lines is an element in that array, right? So if we do get content array element 0, it's the very first line in the file. We do something like 5, there's white space there, 6, so on and so forth. And each of these is a string. So get content will return an array of strings, right? And so now that you know that you're dealing with an array of strings, we can go back to things that we talked about before with the string methods for modifying things like padding left, trimming, uppercase, lowercase, so on and so forth. All of those now apply, right? So you can do things like, let's just take the first line again, and we'll call to upper. Right now we know, that line was not completely uppercase in the file or whatever. But at least in this particular case, we can change it to upper. Now, this doesn't actually change the contents of the file when you do it this way. This is just manipulating the in-memory representation of that file, right? Or more specifically, that line, right? Because if we do get content again on just the file, we can see that it actually didn't change anything, right? But because we did it this way, it's just manipulating the in-memory version of that file, right? Now we could, if we wanted to, actually write that change back to the file. And this is where it kind of gets a little, this is where you start to notice, like, if you've got a Linux background, you start to lose some of the flexibility that you have with like set and awk before, because you can write this change back to the file, but you're going to have to clobber all the contents of the file completely instead of just that one specific area that you're trying to target, right? So
what do you mean by clobber? Like,
so
go through all of it?
Yeah, it's going to overwrite everything in the file, right? So everything that's in the file now, it's just all of it's going to get overwritten regardless if it didn't change or not, right? And that has more to do with the fact that like there's no way to really manipulate string streams inline in PowerShell that I'm aware of. I'm sure if there is, somebody's probably beating their head against the desk right now. It's like, ah! But as far as I know, there isn't any way to do that. So when you're making changes to files, you're doing the changes to the array of strings from the file, and then you have to write that array back into the file, right? And if you don't clobber on the rewrite, you're going to append to the end, so you're just going to keep duplicating all that text over and over, and you don't want to do that. You just want to make that one change. So we can do something, we can just demonstrate this really quick. So I'm going to store, and I'm going to do strong typing here for verbosity, and because that's how I like to do things.
And strong typing is when you like say, hey, this is a string, or hey, this is going to be an array or whatever. Yeah, just like that.
That text file. So what that did is that stored the contents of get content into variable A that is defined as a string array, right? So we can go A0 equals A0.2 upper. And if we view A0, and if we view A again, we can see that that particular element of the array got modified, right? Now, if we want to write this back to the file, we can do set content, which would be value of the current text file. The value is going to be the array that we're going to write to that, because the value property for set content is pretty flexible. It accepts a string array, but it can also, I think there's a variant of set content that can take like a PS object. But in this particular case, we're just going to write a string array. And then if we do get content on, whoop. Now you can see we actually modified the file at that point. But again, the thing to keep in mind with this is like with set content, what we did was we actually rewrote everything in that file based off of what was in the array in A, right? So it didn't just change this; it actually rewrote everything. Which is fine, because that's the only thing that changes, that first line, so nobody cares.
But I guess there might be issues if there's like a huge file.
Yeah, well, so that's where you start getting into like possible performance issues, right? Because you're really making manipulations on an in-memory array, which if the array is large or the operations you need to do on multiple elements start to inflate, then you're going to start having some issues. Or if you need to do multi-line edits, right? Because then you're really talking about two array comparisons with a merge, and that can get messy. But this is like a poor man's way of saying, hey, I just have one line of text I need to edit in this file. Given what we have in PowerShell, or at least that I have within the facilities of my P brain, this is what we can do with a single line edit.
Nice. And you can apply that same logic to like every line and it'll loop through. But I think for most use cases, people probably won't have to think about the performance thing, like for almost every use case. But it is something to consider if you're doing some higher level stuff or have a unique project. Yeah.
The array. Yeah, I don't think the performance really is going to matter for too many people, especially because this is like as far as I can tell, this is probably the easiest way to go about doing like per line manipulation in a file, just using the commandlets. Again, there might be a way that I'm not sure of, but the point being is like arrays are kind of expensive to deal with in general, so the larger they get, the slower this is going to get.
Yeah. So that was an example of doing it to one line. What if we saw a pattern and we just wanted to like modify the whole file? Like we see something that's going on. We want to, if we see it one time, we know it's bad. If we see it 3 times, get rid of it. Like maybe 5 spaces, or I don't know what here we'd want to get rid of. Maybe replace not Gary with Greg Martin. Right? Yeah.
We can try that. I am going to be hedging my bets a little bit here because I think I know how to do that off the top of my head.
And that's better if you don't. It's better if you don't.
Yeah, we're going to try to do this. So, all right. So we're going to go back to working with it in memory rather than directly in the file. So we're just going to refresh the content there. And then what we're going to do is, whoops. Let's just see if this gives us anything. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is right. So what we did here was we identified at least every instance where it saw not Gary. Now, the thing is select string was case insensitive in the search, right? So I typed in not Gary in all lowercase, and it turned even, like it showed up even the not Gary with a capital A, right?
Yeah. So it's not case sensitive there.
Right. You can make it case sensitive, but it's like whatever.
I think most
case
people
insensitive.
really want that.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever run into too many cases where, not to be redundant about it, I don't know if I've run into too many cases where somebody needed case sensitivity for a search. I mean, it's there. I'm sure somebody's banging their head like, oh my god, but case insensitivity has always worked out really good for me. I don't really care one way or the other. So at least we know where not Gary's are at. Now, the thing with replacing it in the file, right, is that select string isn't telling us what index in the array these lines are associated with, right? It's just giving us, like if we do this. So that is an array, but the problem is that these array indexes don't match up to what the array index in A would be, right? So this one shows up as line 0, but this is actually, line probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So probably line 8 or line 9 or something like that. So the trick would be to there might be a more efficient way to do this.
So I like grabbing content, like the whole file, using get content. Mm-hmm. And then with that, then we're going to, I put that into a variable called content, maybe. So you're strongly typed fella. Okay, and then we can run it. Just I always do this. Just verify it exists, and you're going to see a ton of text. It's probably too much. Okay, yeah, that's too much. All right, put it away. Now for this, I think a dash replace would work. So just content dash replace, and then not Gary with Greg Martin. I think. I mean, we'll give it a shot. Okay. Hopefully it works.
Hey, I did it.
Hey, there we go. Look at
that. I'm over engineering this. Right?
All good, all good. Hey, we're here to kind of dabble around. So if we click up arrow again, so like you said earlier, this doesn't actually exist. It was just there and now it's gone. So you could just do $new content equals, or you could do content equals whatever. We basically just want a new variable that contains this exact thingy we're looking at here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we could do I cannot type today. Equals.
Grego. Oh,
yeah.
Old Grego.
Yeah, old Grego. Yeah, Grego Martini. So Grego Martini.
Getting alter egos out here.
Yeah, I've already got too many of them, man.
It's a good old validity check. Yeah. Wow, Grego Martini. And then if we wanted to save that, we would just set content for the file.
Yeah. So we could do, so this is going to clobber that, right? So if we do new content.
I think, I haven't done this in a little bit.
Yeah. So that we do get content.
Is it good now?
There we go.
Okay, cool. Boom. And that's kind of what you can do. I don't know. Do people usually do for each loops? I haven't.
You could, I mean, because it's an array, you could technically do a for each loop. Again, the over engineering brain kicking in, right? I mean, you could technically do a for each loop. It would be probably way less efficient than replace. I don't know specifically the engine, like given how seemingly science schooled me on the thing in the Discord the other day. He might be somebody to talk to about how replace works, because I'm not sure specifically how that inflates in the engine.
Yeah. I think one thing that you wanted to show earlier was get content raw. So rather than having like an array, give us that.
So if you do get content raw, it's going to pump everything out as a string, right? So if we just do this, and it's also right. So if we do that type, and see, now you're dealing with a string rather than just an array. It's like other than array itself, and that can make things a little bit simpler. Dealing with a string is faster than dealing with an array. My opinion, and this is more like programmer preference. I saw Gilbert chimed in there, but I think my opinion when dealing with complex strings like this, it's easier to do it inside of an array, but it's a little more performance prohibitive in certain cases. But with this, it's not really that big of a deal.
Yeah. Gilbert, I'm curious, since you're a fan of raw, you're a fan of the dash raw, what is your favorite use case for it, or when do you see it coming up? Because you were recently talking about adding comments to regex. So I'd like to know a little bit more, sir, if you don't mind.
Put them on the spot, man.
I think the dot upper and dot lower thing is nice if the case never matters and you want to just super normalize it with whatever string you're doing. So a lot of times it actually doesn't matter unless you're doing like an email.
Yeah, but I feel like most of my experience has been like the case changing methods, the dot to upper or dot to lower is more of a it's more of a defensive mechanism for programming. So like if you ingest strings and then you need to do conditionals on those strings, like you need to check to see if it equals something, your conditional shouldn't care one way or another what the case is. Like the invariant should be that you're just checking a specific case. So if you ingest the string and then change it to upper or to lower or whatever, and then you can do your conditionals after that, you're guaranteed that it's always going to be a certain way. And I see that happen a lot of times with like inventory management systems where like you scan a barcode and everything comes in like uppercase, but somebody downstream wrote logic that checks it for lowercase and they're not checking it because the lower and uppercase letters don't actually match. So that those kinds of things happen, but that's where I see it used the
most. I think I was thinking of the for each thing. You like you're saying, it's not as efficient, but if your brain, all you got down is the for each loop and your brain thinks in for each loops, you can absolutely write an efficient script that loops through it one line at a time, basically takes the exact stuff you're doing and just applies it and saves that output as $content and then sets it to a file. That's fine too. Yeah, great example from Gilbert. So the raw example. A good example is reading a markdown file where you want to grab content between the headers.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense. If I could type, that would be good. So that would be another way to put that on. Like if you're doing a for each, you just pipe it into there and then use the special variable for each individual item.
I'm thinking of your video game. I'm thinking you could put a start sleep in there too and make it like a little dramatic, like line by line, and just.
There actually is. So there is and I think I was talking to Gilbert about this a while back. Like, so one of the things again, I can already hear people screaming at me. One of the things I threw out the window was I don't actually keep frame rate in my game, so it's not actually doing any of that stuff, right? Because most of it is based off of like read, evaluate, frame rate. Like you have to do something on the keyboard before something happens. So you don't need to necessarily measure frame rate. And but in order to do like some of the animation sequences that I did, you just do a boring start sleep kind of thing to time things out. And again, it's not the most efficient way to do it because you still get hit by like clock speed, but it's a way to do it, and that's what I did there.
Nice. I think the regex across multiple lines might also be a good use case for the dash raw. And your thing about like timing things with start sleep reminds me, and this is like a throwback for people who've been around PowerShell for a while. Back in the day, and you might still be able to do it with emulated beeps, but you could like control the beeps of your computer to do like the death march from Star Wars or whatever the song's called. And the way you would pause it would be start sleep to kind of time it out.
Dude, no kidding. So in my game repository, there's a directory called Legacy Source, and I have a file in there that literally built out an entire note table from like different frequencies, like low to high for the PC speaker, and then I built an array of those notes to play different songs and did that too.
Composer. Wow.
Yeah. I got like the Ghostbusters theme song in there, one of the Dragon Warrior songs. There's a couple others in there. I forget, but it was pretty funny.
Nice. I'll have to check that out. I'm gonna do a long play on stream. The stream doesn't end until Eldoria is gone.
We'll be here for a while.
Was it really that long of a game?
Content-wise, no. And like I said, I get like an hour a day to work on it. So I've been working on it for about 3.5 years now. So like yeah, slug's on. I just broke the 140,000 line mark. So
wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a head scratcher. And you just
give
it one AI prompt and it just all spit it out.
Don't even get me started on that. I've tried so hard to get AI to do things with that project, and it can't do it.
I mean, not to distract from the text thing, but I got to talk about it a little more because I was just using Copilot, right? So Copilot is inline. You can have it next to you as well. I have found that does anyone actually successfully using AI without giving it incredibly small bits at a time? I find that it can't handle many things that go beyond the basics. If it needs if it's editing multiple files or things like that, it's always wrong. And then it's just, I'm chasing the rabbit of accept changes, and it just never works. So I have to go the very small, I know what it needs to do, and you can give me the small pieces, but if you try and piece it together, AI, it's right hosting all the way. It's terrible.
Yeah, I think you and I can go down a rabbit hole with this because I've got several thousand hours behind the wheel with some of these tools. But my experience has been that if I need to try to design a system, now I'm talking like strictly design a system. Don't write me any code. Don't do any of this stuff. If I need to explore the mechanics of a system and sort of work it out, like even in a mathematical sense, the AI tool is really good for that, especially Claude. Claude is hands down one of the best models you can use right now.
Yeah.
But if I'm asking it to do something complex, and actually generate code for it, a charitable take on that would be me standing over a junior software engineer's shoulder and then pair programming with them. But the reality of it is, it's just absolute garbage.
I like the tab completion aspect. It's tab completion on steroids. I already have to kind of be showing it what I'm trying to do. But you saw earlier, I do enjoy that. I don't have to type out the semicolon and the bracket. Okay, cool. I don't have to memorize that maybe anymore for simple things. But that's just tab completion a little bit, right?
Yeah, the tab completion actually gets on my nerves to an extent. Let me tell you why. So, and I use this example all the time, but it's one that profoundly annoys me. So are you familiar with enumerations?
I mean, yeah, you're enumerating something, kind of going through.
Right. But the point being is with an enumeration, it's fixed values. If you have a variable of a type of an enumeration, it can only ever be one of those types, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a big enumeration user. I love them. They're great for a lot of things. The one thing that any AI tool, Claude, Gipity, Gemini, Olama, all of them, at some point they just start guessing what should be there instead of referring back to what the enumeration is, and I always have to go back and correct it because it's wrong 100% of the time. And then at some point I just throw my keyboard and I'm not doing this anymore. this isn't good. And where that really came in as a problem was at one point I wanted to say, well, I have a particular thing that I need to replicate 100 different times. A single class needs replicated 100 different times to some different things. I want the AI tool to do that. And it just fell on its face doing that because I had to go back and change all 100 of them. All the enumeration values were wrong.
Oof. Yikes. Well,
Yeah.
Before we wrap things up, I want to just throw it out there. Anyone, we've got a lot of very smart people who are here live watching. Is there anything you think that we should mention beginners need to know before we move on? I think we covered it. We showed them you can manipulate a ton of strings. Manipulating a file is just getting the content, manipulating your strings, and saving the content. Ideally, creating a backup too, a .bak file of whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, there's Regex. There's a ton you can do there. We'll cover that in the future weeks. But is there anything that you think that we need to impart before we part ways until next week?
No, I think we got everything. I think we got everything lined up, man. I mean, this is enough to get anybody. Really, it's enough to get anybody started doing any basic string manipulation in PowerShell, or any language, really. But I mean, like I said before, PowerShell, in my opinion, is the easiest place to get started with that kind of stuff.
You know, I think they say there will be a test at the end. I'm thinking we seem to have a lot of people who know a thing or two. Like at some point, putting together like a test, getting like 3 or 4 people on here and one at a time, like giving them a prompt and seeing them live, try and figure it out. Nothing too crazy because I want people to be able to follow it, but something like, here's a text file. There's a ton of things wrong with it. Show us how you go about it. And we can kind of talk through their thoughts and see them do it live. I think that could be interesting.
Yeah, I happily participate in something like that.
Maybe a little prize action. Who knows? A little celebration. I'll get my announcer voice. A little Regex competition, maybe. Who knows? I got something up my sleeve. We'll see. But
you conjure your Kelly radio voice for the competition?
Oh, gosh. No. Why, hello there. Ladies and gentlemen, gather around for the greatest showdown. No, I can't do like a modern radio voice. We're going back when baseball was like the #1 thing in the world on the radio.
Oh, yeah.
What am I supposed to say now? Yeah, more PowerShell content coming to you. PowerShell Wednesdays all the time. We're doing them. We're having fun. New podcast coming out every Monday. Dude, let's get you on screen, man. Sorry about that. Excuse me for being rude.
Just kick me out. It's whatever. It's all good.
That's how we treat him here. But thanks everybody for joining. If you joined us live, sweet. If you checked out the recording afterwards, like most of you did, that's awesome too. If you want to join us live every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern or whatever time it is for you, come join. We're having fun. We're learning new things. And that's kind of like it. We're just having fun and learning new things. Boom. Thanks everybody. And thank you, not Gary, AKA Greg Martin, AKA Grego Martini. What a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks.